Hey, welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. Hope I had the right one on. Did I have the right one on? This is the one we're doing. First class air tickets. Why did I probably had the wrong thing on the beginning? Oh, what are we gonna do? Anyway, hey, good morning. It's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. We're gonna talk about how I got first class tickets for $11 and how did I apply to Adrian stuff. Like, what the heck does getting airline tickets for $11 apply to being agile or Scrum or just being agile in general to what you need to do? And today is Tuesday, where we talk about usually 10xing your career, two for one growth, 10xing your teams, getting more for what your value is. And I'm going to go and kind of share an interesting curveball on how when Eddie and I went to a baseball game over in Pittsburgh from Philadelphia, and we flew back for $11 for the two of us. We got two tickets actually for $11. So we'll talk about that today on the 5 a.m. Master Scrum Show. And I have Bubbles here. Hey, Bubbles. Bubbles is here. I don't know if you can, there's a little tail on the bottom. Still working on the sound, still working on the connections. May have figured it out. I don't know. I think it's a luck of the draw. We'll see how it goes. And this is the 5 a.m. Master Scrum Show. We're talking about Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way. So you bring more value to your customer and have some more fun along the way. And so I got we went to the baseball game. We rode the train to Pittsburgh and we flew back. I was able to get two first class one-way tickets for $11. Two for $11. And people ask me, how'd you get the $11? So I'm going to go in that. There's two things, very agile thinking in the process. So, one, frequent flyer models. Okay. But how does that relate to what we do in Agile? So many teams work on too many features at a time in a sprint or focus on things. One of the things I've done over my lifetime is get myself down to like just two credit cards. I don't have 50 credit cards. I don't have a credit card for each different thing. Like I don't have a Wawa card. I don't have this card. I got rid of my Target card. I don't have all these cards. I basically have two cards that I use all the time. Why do I do that? Because it maximizes my return when I'm going to spend the money anyhow, right? So I might as well use it on a card that's going to benefit me. One of the two cards is my frequent flyer miles card. So since 2020, let's say, before we really traveled a lot, use those cards for everything, especially big purchases, fixing my car, whatever I got to do to keep that thing going. So I bought things with those too. So I was able to rack up a lot of frequent flyer miles with my frequent flyer card. So by limiting, rather than have 25 features, let's say in your sprint, or working on 25 different things at a time, just focus your lane on a couple things at a time and you'll build more return over time. And that's what I did with the frequent flyer miles. So I was able to use frequent flyer, right? Now the other thing, how do I use it? Do I use all my miles I got? I don't want to do that, right? So the next part is being flexible on your time. This is a mistake project managers make all the time. Engineers make it. Everyone makes this mistake all the time, and I usually I'm so mad at these mistakes. And I'll give you an anecdote that was actually a military thing we were doing, or engineering contract. I had some project managers. I'll tell you that story too. But one of the other things is be flexible on time. If I wouldn't have said I wanted to be flying at peak time, I would have had to use more miles and it would have cost more money and it would have been a higher rate than just $11. But by us picking like an 8 a.m. flight when there wasn't a lot of people on a Sunday, we were able to get the cheapest mile of flight and the cheapest taxes. All I basically did was pay taxes and fees, which turned out to be $11 for the two of us on the trip. Same thing applies when you manage your teams. And I say, you pick your time wisely. I had one project manager. He had this work getting done. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to hire like 20 engineers to do this job. I'm like, we only got like 10 in the company. I said, we're not hiring another 10 engineers just for this one thing. I looked at his schedule on when he was using Microsoft Project. And I go, oh, dude. And I do me a favor, move this task or these tasks over by a day, one day, boom. what was happening was he had projects ending on the same day as he was starting projects on the same day, and therefore you got double the need and demand in engineers. But by moving it over day, he didn't realize this because he a lot of people don't understand how Microsoft Project works and doesn't understand level scheduling. You move it over a day and you don't need all those resources. You use the ones you did. So by being flexible in your time, he was able not to have to hire all those resources. I wasn't gonna do it anyhow. I wasn't gonna let him get it. There's no way. I was like, dude, no way. Um, it's a good thing I know what I'm kind of doing with the project management side. But I was like, that's the time. So also being agile, you got to be agile on your time and your delivery on things like that. I want to make sure I don't think I have my phone off here. That's not good. Okay, now it's on vibrate at least. Um, being agile also means being a little bit flexible on time. Think about, excuse me, think about when you're going to deliver something. Can you have a little flexibility? Does it have to be exactly at that time in the event? A lot of teams, they will be really close to getting stuff done. Having that ability to move it out a day. There's Bubbles. What do you want, Bubbles? Do you want to be in the show, Bubbles? Well, anyway, so having that flexibility and move it out a day helps out. So, like, even though we let's say we do sprint review and we're going to demo a product or close out a sprint. Now, it doesn't make sense to do it all the time, but sometimes it makes sense to do the demo the next day. No big deal. It's not gonna hurt. Or do it earlier. Do it, move it around, or pick a different time for your deliveries because the time you do doesn't make any sense. Does it make sense to do it on a Friday night before everyone goes away? Maybe not. Even though they said, hey, we have to have it in by Monday. Okay, but do we want to do it on a Friday? How about if we deliver it on Wednesday prior, make sure it's working in our system before we turn it on Monday, right? Don't just deliver it on, it has to be in there Monday. Have a little flexibility where maybe if we have flexibility in what we do and we don't pick a specific date for delivery, can that open up opportunity to get more value out of what we're doing, right? By us being flexible when we wanted to fly and not saying, oh, I have to be at 5 o'clock, which then would have been, you know, 10,000, hundreds of thousands of points for it. But by us doing picking, okay, we're flexible on this day when we want to go. 8 o'clock looks like the least amount of points, and we get to go first class. And Eddie was like, first class, let's go first class. So we went and did the first class. So you got to be flexible in your timing when you're agile. That's part of being agile too. It's not about delivering all the time. Sometimes you got to be agile and flexible when you want to deliver and pick a variation time that doesn't require a lot of resources to achieve your goal. Right. So those are the two things. And I'm explaining how I got the $11 tickets. So one was be focused on what you do. Don't have 25 things going on at the same time. In this case, I only use 2 credit cards. So the 2 of them will do what I want to do in my long-term goals, whether it be cash back or whatever, return on that one or frequent flyer miles. I decide which one I want to do, and I use those cards, those 2 cards, not 25 cards, to focus on my return. So that allowed me to have enough miles to fly for free pretty much, except for $11 for 2 people. That's pretty good. First class, you know? And then the other thing was flexible in my time. So many people, when they write requirements, like, there's no flexibility in requirements. I'm gonna tell you right now, as a program manager, project manager, scrum master, coach, manager, every requirement has flexibility in it. I've never been in a place that didn't have any flexibility. I mean, one thing's if you're doing fire retardant and it catches on fire, it says it's not supposed to catch on fire. I mean, that's a definite requirement. But pretty much everything else is flexible. You just got to negotiate those requirements and when you want to do. Like I said, that's my son. I said, "Do you mind flying out at 8 o'clock in the morning?" No, it's good for me. So we flew out at 8, and it worked out good because my wife was able to pick us up at the airport. So I didn't have to rent an Uber to get back home. So that was even better, save more money. So think about those 2 things. Think about focus on how many features you're doing. I really recommend don't do more than 2. Just do a couple. I know some people say a sprint goal. Sometimes you got to do more than one feature, but don't do 25, you know. Don't do a lot of features. Just do a couple and you'll get more value out of that time. And then be flexible with your time when you need it, when you need to deliver it. understand, negotiate your time so that you can be agile in your delivery. And sometimes you get more value by just shifting an hour or a day. Like I said, in the one project manager is like, "Oh, we need to hire another 10 engineers." I'm like, "Wait a minute, moved it out a day, flatten the schedule down. We didn't need to hire any more engineers, right?" So just by being flexible in the time, does it matter if we end in this day? Not really. I mean, that's 6 months out. One day shift is anything close. I'd rather shift a day than have to hire 10 people for nothing and then fire them the next day because you screwed up your schedule, right? So I want to share that with you. That's how we got the $11 tickets, two of us for first class from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. One, I focused my spending habits with just two credit cards. This is a personal and I think and a feature thing. And then two, flexible in the time so allow us to get the cheapest first class seats back to Philadelphia. So I hope that helps. Hope that gives you an idea of how you need to be flexible in your time and you need to be focused on what you're working on to get the most value for your dollar. And some advice, just think about that. Think if you got 25 credit cards or whatever, get rid of some. You don't need all those credit cards. Just focus on two that give you the most value for those two credit cards that you use, right? Or focus on one. I usually have two in case you lose one or to kind of split up my spending a little bit. Don't go all one. It's like, well, we only have one DB on our team. That's a lot of risk there. So have two cards and pay them off every month, by the way. Anyway, I hope you do well. I'm going to wish you happy scrumming and you all take care and have a great day. Bye. Let's see if this thing works. Bye, Bubbles.